Thank you, Ajay, and absolutely delighted to be here today. And as a local girl that's sort of lived in the area literally all my life, apart from a few years at university in Plymouth, I was just reflecting on Ajay's story, and I have a very similar story, really. My mum and dad came over from Ireland about 65 years ago to England. Very quickly found their way to the coast and to this amazing city of Southampton, and their first sort of joint endeavour together was to run a pub in Southampton. So it's a constant journey, and I do sort of identify a lot with what Ajay just said. So thank you very much, as I say, for coming today. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of the creative and cultural industry to our economy, both now and in the future. But before I sort of start, I also wanted to say how delighted the Solent LEP is to be working in partnership with the City of Culture bid team and the City of Southampton. I think it's such a fantastic moment for the region, and ever since Claire picked up the phone and said, Anne-Marie, it'd be really good if we could work with you, I've just felt so uplifted, so sort of inspired, and I think it's come at such a brilliant time after what's been a very, very tough period for people personally, in their businesses and in their lives. So absolute honour really to be working with Claire and the team. And I think it's fantastic to be here today to continue what is a really vital conversation about what is a fabulous sector. And I hope today really does act as a springboard for the businesses within our sort of creative and cultural industry to continue the conversation, to develop the conversation, and to develop the networks, the friendships, and the relationships as we look to really sort of kick on with this fantastic sector. So I've got a few slides, more probably to help me than you, so that I keep on track. So hopefully the team will bring up the first slide, and I can talk to you a little bit about why the creative industry is so important to us. In about 2 months' time, we're going to launch our new strategy, the Solent 2050 strategy. And as you would expect, we want it to be a very positive statement about the direction of travel for this area. And we've got a really strong vision for where we'd like to be in 2050, and it is very much about seeing our communities flourish, our businesses flourish, the economy flourishing, and individuals flourishing. So we're hoping really that when we do launch in May, that what people take from it is ambition. Ambition not just at a business or professional level, but at a personal level, to push boundaries, to sort of look forward, particularly in light of the few years we've had. And if I go to the next slide, please, colleagues, very much this is about looking at place. And for us, the Solent is such a special place, and the City of Southampton holds such a special place within the Solent economy. Lots of places will say they're special, but I think the story of the Solent, its distinctiveness shaped by its natural assets, its geographies, the two cities, some of those assets within it, including our universities, does make us what we are really. And it's fabulous that today's event is here at Solent University, one of our sort of 3 world-class universities. I think that what sort of separates us and really defines us is our cultural assets and also our distinctiveness. I think this is a place that has personality and is a pioneering region. People are willing to try things, willing to do things differently, willing to test things. And I think we have a history of innovating. You know, as I stand here today and reflect on things like the role that the internet has played through the pandemic, that is something that was conceived and developed in this city. When we look at some of the great innovators, the great innovations, things like the Spitfire, the hovercraft, some of the technology that sends people into space in this region. And again, when we look at some of the musical collaborations, some of the art, some of the gaming industry, very much the germs of those ideas are here in this region. Our key priorities for Solent 2050 will be set out in the next slide, and I don't intend to go through all of them, but what you'll see there is a flavour of the sort of priorities that we're looking to focus on. Clearly, as a coastal region, maritime features very heavily. But for the first time, and perhaps long overdue, we want to bring into sharp relief the importance of the creative and cultural sector, the visitor economy, and we're very much seeing that as a key priority. And certainly the City of Culture bid is so important to that. It is a catalyst in many senses that's allowed us to perhaps extend our own conversations within the LEP network and to look at the role that creative and cultural can play moving forward. And I know many people say, well, just how important is it, Anne-Marie? And I will talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But I think some of the other priorities on that slide hopefully link very much to our decision to showcase visitor economy, creative and cultural. And it does actually contribute to the development of talent. Our young people, our existing residents, currently looking at pathways, currently looking at the future. This sector is such a stimulus for people, and it provides alternative pathways to perhaps the more sort of routine pathways that people traditionally look at. And I've seen very, very clearly in the pandemic, people using that adverse situation to think differently. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to start looking online. I'm actually going to do something like performing arts. I'm going to change my career. And I think it is, in many senses, a unique facet of the sector that it does generate different thinking and gives people a bit of courage to perhaps step out and do something very differently. Or on the other hand, we are looking again in SO25 at the role of health and well-being. Culture's played such a phenomenal role in that over the last 18 to 24 months, with people seeking inspiration and solace from things like music, art, from their immediate area. So I think it's a very timely moment for us in the LEP to be launching our strategy in the next couple of months alongside the City of Culture bid. It's almost like a sort of a natural synergy, and we certainly see this sector growing and blossoming and being very much at the forefront of some of the things we'd like to see going forward in the next period to 2050. So if I look at a few numbers, as any good economist would, on the next slide, when we look at value and the value of the creative industries, I think sometimes the sector really does underestimate its importance. We probably all do that naturally as people as well. But some of these figures are quite mind-blowing. In 2019, the value of the creative industry, we're talking about nearly £116 billion to the national economy. It's not insignificant, it's actually very significant. We look at the fact that, exports are a big chunk of this, and I know people look at things like the film industry as a good example of that, but sport is so much in our culture. That's huge as an industry. Gaming as an industry is huge. So I think whether you look at it in absolute terms as a contributor to the economy, or you look at it as a sector that does promote the face of the United Kingdom, it contributes a huge amount, I think, to the conversation, but also to the economy. So we see this as an area that is a high growth potential area, and certainly as we move forward now with many of us starting to experience again some of the things that we missed during the pandemic, like going to the theatre, like looking at or experiencing music concerts, or, as I do with my son, going to the football, and we're feeling very positive about that at the moment. All of these things define who we are and also define our businesses. And even the guys in the event management team, the event management sector is very, very strong actually in the Solent, and the number of conversations we have with people that said, we just want to see things return to not normality, but to a place where we can have events again, where we can see things, where we can go to conferences, etc., etc. And I think today is a great day in relation to seeing so many of you come out and not just support the sector, but support the industries that make the sector what it is. So from the LEP perspective, if I look at the next slide and bring things down more to a sort of local area, why is the partnership we have with the City of Culture bid so important, and why is it critical that we sort of work off this momentum and build on it? I think for the Solent, we have such a diverse range of creative and cultural industries and businesses, and we can see all of them, whether it's this sort of performing arts, broadcasting, as I said, sport, art, digital. In the 5 years sort of preceding, it created 10,000 jobs. Some of those are individuals, as I say, creating their own sort of businesses and enterprise. Some of them are companies that have started to grow and flourish, and we believe the City of Culture opportunity could see that absolutely accelerate beyond what we've seen before. I think, as I say, in terms of what the role that creative has played and can play, it definitely has played a key role in the recovery of the economy from the pandemic. A lot of us now really do appreciate local. We've taken the opportunity to sort of immerse ourselves in our local areas more, and I've kind of fallen in love again with the area that I live and work in, and maybe sort of a more sort of alert to some of the experiences that maybe passed me by a little bit, the heritage of the area, as I say, you know, experiencing some of the arts, and I think the facilities and art collections in the city are a fantastic example of that. And so for me, I think the role that the industry can play in taking things forward is amazing, and we do a lot of work with schools and seeing some of our young people using platforms that are definitely way beyond my capability, the digital platforms, to think and create differently. And we've got some amazing young entrepreneurs literally running global businesses from their bedrooms. This is what creativity and culture can do. It can really lift aspiration and deliver opportunity. So for us, I think the visitor economy, the creative and cultural economy, does allow the industries to come together in a network, and it's certainly something the LEP will want to focus on. And some of the team are here today. We've got James at the back there. He didn't know I was going to do this, but if you could just wave a hand, James. Please do speak to James. He's our head for business engagement, and we really do want to build those creative networks so that we can continue to support beyond today those businesses that have got aspiration to build on what they're doing. I think the role that the industry can play for young people in increasing their sort of opportunity base. Obviously, skills and qualifications are important, but I sometimes think we all need a slightly different platform on which to sort of better ourselves or extend ourselves. So some of the work we're doing with schools at the moment will feature very much in that, and we hope to bring alive some of the opportunities that all of you can offer to our young people in the city and the wider region. And finally, I wanted to sort of just reflect on the importance of the sector linked to the City of Culture bid. So I hope there's a few pictures coming out. I can't see it, so I'm relying heavily on them. They're all going, yes, they are, Anne-Marie. This is just a real sort of taste of the sort of things that are, you know, around in our region. So within about a sort of 25-mile radius, you can see everything: the heritage assets, the visitor economy assets, performing arts, the natural assets that all contribute and shape the creative and cultural industry, and the sporting assets. I thought I'd put cricket up to sort of as an ode to the summer and seeing perhaps some of us get out to see some of the amazing sport that is at the Rose Bowl as well. So it really is a rich tapestry of experiences that are available in the region. And I I think, and I would say this, wouldn't I, that it would be mad if we weren't chosen in Southampton as the city of culture. When you look at that picture, we are the city of culture. Whether externally that's seen as the case, I firmly believe we are. And in closing, I just wanted to give a few sort of, if you like, thoughts to leave in terms of the bid itself. So the bid, I think, has brought us all together post-pandemic to start looking forward, and I think that is certainly something that is helpful for all of us. I do genuinely and passionately believe it will help shape the future prosperity of the region for everybody, because I do think it's such an inclusive sector. I do think it will help to develop and support the skills of our young people and the sort of wider resident population. A microphone can bring out the musician in me, but I am going to restrain myself today. It's one of my hidden skills, allegedly. I think it should and can bring our creative businesses together. So do speak to James today. We're really, really keen to provide that sort of wraparound network of support. But perhaps most importantly, it is a celebration. It's a celebration of who we are, who we want to be, and it's a celebration of why we should be the city of culture in 2025. So for me, I think this is about committing to a prosperous future for the city and our coastal communities. And I'm delighted to be here today, and I'm delighted to be working with Claire and the team. And thank you for listening.
We are Creative UK, the independent network for the UK's creative industries, harnessing the power of creativity and speaking with one united voice.
Connection is the cornerstone of creative success. The greatest of ideas cannot prosper in a vacuum. We are an industry of creators, makers, innovators, inventors and storytellers, and together we are stronger.
We believe that creativity sits at the heart of the UK's culture, economy and education system. We believe in investing in people and their ideas.
We're looking for businesses who have the talent, who have the ambition to grow, but are looking for that next stage of money. We are looking for businesses who want to scale, and we are here to help them. We are here to support the sector.
We believe in joining forces to coalesce our collective capabilities. We believe in cultivating a world where creativity is fundamentally nurtured.
Our work with local authorities, film offices and national partners is so important in accessing those locations, facilitating the filming and really providing that film-friendly welcome.
I think the UK really competes wonderfully well with Hollywood right now. I think that in addition to, as it were, the visuals that this great land can provide, in addition to the structure that people like Creative England and other organisations are helping to understand and promote.
We believe in the future we are building together, a stronger, fairer and more prosperous future for us all.
At Creative UK, we dedicate ourselves to understanding what the creative industries need and when they need it. When aspiring creatives want to take a risk or take a leap of faith, we're the network that's around them to support. We appreciate creativity is by no means a linear process, so we cultivate safe spaces to be able to test ideas, to be able to explore innovation.
We believe that the creative industries have the power to change lives. We connect and empower, we champion and support.
We believe that championing the creative industries has the power to bolster individual lives and whole economies. Our fearless and influential policy and advocacy work identifies the issues that matter most to affect change on a bigger scale.
We unlock opportunities and transform horizons. We are Creative UK, and this is our future-centric philosophy.
Hello, good morning everybody. So as I think you know, I've been invited today to provide an overview of why the creative industries are such an important part of our economy, and how we can help our towns and our cities and our rural areas rebuild and regenerate as we recover from the awfulness, frankly, of the last couple of years and the impact that COVID in particular has had on us. But before I do that, I wanted to start by really recognising and reflecting on the terrible tragedy that is taking place in another part of Europe today, and the huge trauma that is being inflicted on the Ukrainian population and also on many, many lives of ordinary Russians who are all seeing their livelihoods and their freedoms disappear in a matter of days, and the very essence of their life put under threat. And as I was preparing, very late last night actually, and this morning, I was sort of thinking about this, and I was thinking, it sort of makes you think about the usefulness of what you're doing and the relevance of it. And I thought, well, the things I'm going to talk about, do they really matter when you see all this terrible stuff happening? But my family we're having lots of family stories today, aren't we? My family are from the Middle East. And over the last 70 years, as a family, we've been completely dispersed from our homelands because of various wars. Both of my grandmothers lost not only their homes and their possessions, but their communities, their friends, and many of the cultures and the rituals that had bound them together for generations was basically sort of blown apart. They did a really good job of trying to keep a lot of that, but my family is now all over the world. And so that made me think that actually what I'm going to talk about today really does matter, actually, because culture and the creative industries that are fashioned from it, they're fashioned from our artistic heritage and they're fashioned from our cultural experiences. They define who we are and they define how we live. They reflect our collective values and they define us as a nation and as communities. That's what people in Ukraine are fighting for today, the right to reflect who they are, to represent their own values and their own cultural traditions. Brecht famously said that art is not a mirror that reflects reality, but a hammer to shape it. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. So whilst I'm largely going to focus on why it makes sense to support the creative industries as an economic driver of better prosperity, I want us to reflect on something more important. Our culture and our creativity is what defines us. Regardless of money, it is integral to our collective DNA. It is what delineates one place from another, and that's why it's important. So, cheerier stuff now. In the not-so-olden days, and by that I mean sort of like 20 years ago, which is what my children talk about when they talk about the olden days. Anyway, when we talked about industry, it denoted one thing, really, which was stuff. So physical stuff that people had manufactured or they'd dug up or they'd wrangled together using some sort of machinery that made usually a lot of noise. It was made in a building by a workforce that would clock in and clock out at the beginning and at the end of the day. Industry produced hard, tangible things like cars and ships, computers and household appliances. It also looked after physical infrastructure like roads and rail and power stations. Industry wasn't someone sat in a cafe on a laptop designing and testing a video game. It wasn't a fashion designer collaborating with a chemist on a new high-tech self-cleaning fabric, nor was it a TV series about our monarchy, and it certainly wasn't anything connected to a virtual world called the metaverse. Happily, in 2022, industry means something entirely different and quite a bit quieter and less labour-intensive as well. Well, maybe not labour-intensive, but definitely a lot quieter and lots less not as smelly. Anyway, because our raw materials are no longer coal or steel or iron, they are ideas. Intellectual property is what really drives our economy these days. You probably wouldn't know this from reading the business sections of our national press, but investment into intellectual property, described as investment in intangibles, overtook investment into tangibles, so that's physical assets such as buildings, machinery, plant, etc. So it overtook it after the recession in 2008. And because we've been quantifying the economic impact of our creative businesses for the last 20 years, we have got proper, coherent, hard, longitudinal data on the value that creative sector generates. So I'm glad it's becoming less and less of a secret. And obviously part of my job, my mission, if you like, is to keep people alive to that potential, that realising creative ideas has not only saved our economy, but it really, really affects our daily lives. So I'm delighted, therefore, to have been invited today to speak to you and champion the UK's creative industries. I'm going to talk about their wider role in society and hopefully persuade you that they can play an even more significant role driving both our national and regional post-pandemic recovery. And I'm so delighted because Southampton is obviously, and the Solent area is obviously taking the creative industries very seriously. And it's heartening to be invited to speak at an event which recognises that the creative industries are such a significant player in the region's future growth plans, as Anne-Marie's slides outlined earlier. And it's also clear really through your partnerships as you bid for the UK City of Culture that you already understand the role that culture and the creative industries can play as the builders and conveners of strong civic bonds and community partnerships. The UK's creative industries have global reach, not just local or national, but global reach. And they are one of the very few things that the UK absolutely, utterly, completely and without argument excels at. Our TV formats, for example, are exported worldwide, and nearly every major US studio or platform is investing in UK screen and studio infrastructure. British writers from J.K. Rowling to J.R. Tolkien and Ian Fleming still dominate movie franchises, and British songwriters and performers are global in their reach. We continue to produce some of the most seminal designers in the world, from Johnny Ive at Apple to Thomas Heatherwick and, of course, James Dyson. All of them are graduates of UK art schools. Now, comparisons are instructive, and whilst I hate to start by pitting one sector off another, obviously I'm going to anyway. You will recall about this time last year, maybe a little bit longer, we had some disputes about the demise of the UK's fishing industry. Remember that? You will recall it was one of those moments of principle. Do you know what the value of the fishing industry is to the UK economy? It's £831 million. £831 million. The creative sector, in contrast to fishing, but also many other traditional industries, forgive the colloquialism, delivers shed loads for our economy. Anne-Marie's already pointed it out. Our last official figures put it at a whopping 116 billion in GVA. So that's 831 in principle versus 116 billion. Our creative industries are world leading, whether it's our game sector, which generates nearly 5.5 billion for the UK economy, or our advertising and marketing businesses, or our publishing houses, which have had one of the most successful years ever. Our music industry, which ranks only second to the US in its global reach and has spawned some of the largest and biggest, most successful recording artists in the world. Or our fabulous fashion sector, which sets the bar when it comes to the visionary and the unique. And of course, our superb cultural venues and heritage sites that attract millions of visitors each year into our towns and cities, and which you have plenty of in this fabulous region. And all this from a country the quarter the size of France. The sector has grown continually over the last 10 or 15 years, and prior to the pandemic was increasing at 4 times the rate of the UK economy as a whole, and creating jobs at 3 times the UK average, employing more than 2 million people. Our own research, commissioned last year from Oxford Economics, shows that the impact of the creative industries is actually even greater than the officially recorded statistics from the ONS. We found that an additional 62 billion was supported through the sector's supply chains, and therefore more than 1 in 10 UK jobs are reliant on the creative industries. In the South East alone, the creative businesses contributed over 19 billion in GVA. That's just in 2019. And for every £1 they generated, an additional 40 pence was supported elsewhere in the region's wider economy. That's an economic footprint of nearly 27 billion for this region. And that's before we take into account other industries that benefit from the proximity to creativity and culture, such as hospitality and tourism. And with the right investment, we project that the creative sector can create 300,000 new jobs and an extra 28 billion for the UK economy by 2025. If the UK truly wants to level up, to regenerate towns, cities and rural areas, then our culture and creativity must be at the core of all of those plans, for they are the catalysts for revitalising our regions, drawing people and investment into our local places. The government's own Levelling Up white paper, which I'm sure Anne-Marie knows very well, even makes this point. It repeatedly references the importance of culturally vibrant places to drive growth and prosperity in our society, and it singles out the creative crucible that was Medici Florence. It's right to draw parallels, I think, between the Italian Renaissance and the moment we find ourselves in today, because we also have an abundance of disruptors, innovators and artists, all ready to define the next decade and shape a future that is better for us all. But just as the 14th century Italy had the Medici banking dynasty, so too do we need vital investment to make these noble and, frankly, necessary ideas a reality. This is especially crucial following COVID-19, which has severely impacted parts of the creative industries over the last couple of years. Our data suggests, more than suggests, it tells us, that the pandemic wiped 12 billion from the value of the creative industry sector, and by the end of 2021, over 112,000 creative jobs had been lost. Businesses that were particularly reliant on audiences and footfall were unsurprisingly hit the hardest, and freelancers, the lifeblood of our creative workforce, were disproportionately affected to an overwhelming degree, accounting for nearly 85% of jobs lost. It's also important to say, though, that many businesses in the creative industries thrived during the pandemic. They more than survived, they've thrived. And undoubtedly, government interventions such as the Cultural Recovery Fund and other income support schemes went a huge way in staving off even worse losses for the creative sector. But the pandemic gave a stark reminder to me of how unsustainable lots of our practices are, and uncovered an underlying fragility within the creative ecosystem that have to be addressed, and which I think, as you plan for the next phase of the bid, to think about how you, as a region, address some of those fragilities. But it also showed, as I've mentioned, I suppose, an incredible resilience across the sector. In using ingenuity and adaptability, creative businesses and individuals found a plethora of new ways to ensure their talents continued to flourish. In the most challenging of circumstances, the capacity of creatives to delight, entertain and rejuvenate us all was a lifeline to many, from Italians singing on balconies to school children putting rainbows on windows. The incredible innovation shown in continuing to deliver the goods during the pandemic has, I think, kick-started something of a revolution for the way the creative industries operate. The limits previously placed on how we engage with audiences have perhaps unexpectedly freed creatives from convention and opened them up to new ways to tell stories and reach and connect with audiences, often but not exclusively through digital platforms. By carrying this fresh thinking forward and not simply relaxing into the comfort of the familiar, then I believe the next 5 years are going to be a wonderfully exciting period for creativity in this country. We are already seeing parts of the creative industries bounce back after COVID. The BFI, British Film Institute, recently revealed that 5.64 billion was spent on film and high-end TV production in the UK during 2021. That's over $1 billion more than their highest ever reported figure of 2019. And the good news is that the percentage of money being spent outside of London is only increasing. Over 500 million was spent on film and high-end TV production here in the South East between 2017 and 2019. That created over 6,000 jobs for the region and an economic impact of nearly $1 billion. And that, I must point out, excludes the contribution of studio complexes like Pinewood and Shepperton in Buckinghamshire and Surrey. And so this impact is happening on your own doorstep in the Solent area. Filming in England, part of Creative UK, and you heard Hayley talking a little bit there earlier, provides support for productions looking to film throughout England outside of London. We've been working closely with your colleagues in the New Forest and the Isle of Wight for over 4 years now, and have experienced firsthand how sought after locations in this region are. Be it iconic scenes from No Time to Die, which was filmed aboard a Portsmouth-based Royal Navy warship, a disused power station in the New Forest appearing in Star Wars, a Brockenhurst hotel providing a regal background for the Crown, or BritBox's first ever original drama, which was filmed entirely on the Isle of Wight. The Solent area is in demand, and with production booming across the UK, that demand is only likely to grow. But the opportunity for creativity to shine shouldn't be restricted to the creative industries alone. Through collaboration across businesses and industries, the power of creativity offers a huge amount. The Creative Industries Clusters Programme, which is an academic research and development programme, has brought together world-class research talent with companies and organisations from across the whole country, and has leveraged an additional 201 million in investment into key parts of the UK. And in the Future Skills League Table, which was published by Kingston University late in 2021, some of the UK's most prominent business leaders identified the importance of creative skills to the future workforces of companies in every sector, from financial services to manufacturing and logistics, and I'm sure even fishing. Creative individuals are entrepreneurial and agile, and they are innovators, continually pushing the boundaries of their respective fields. In fact, 55% of creative businesses undertake research and development, meaning that innovation in the creative sector outstrips that in the wider economy. It is that innovation and creativity that is needed to find sustainable solutions to safeguard our planet and to tackle any number of the societal issues we face. Simply put, creative skills and abilities are essential to the UK social and economic recovery. In fact, the government's own shortage occupation list includes a significant proportion of creative role. And that's why, and it's fitting that we're here as I say this, but that's why we need creative education to be at the forefront of mainstream provision. At the moment, unfortunately, it's the Cinderella subject, undervalued and underfunded, meaning fewer and fewer young people are given the opportunity to develop these much needed skills. Creativity is within all of us, no matter our background or our education. It's an innate curiosity, a willingness, or even a desire to do things differently, to entertain, to move, to challenge, and to express ourselves in new or unexpected ways. But whilst talent is everywhere, we know that opportunity isn't. And that's a big problem, because the power of the creative sector to make a difference in all parts of this country is immense. And the creative industries can play a huge role in unleashing that opportunity, that prosperity, that pride in places throughout the country. But if access to a meaningful creative education is the preserve of a privileged minority, then we risk exacerbating an already critical skill shortage in this country. To sustain and grow a diverse talent pipeline, we must guarantee access to creative education for all. And in turn, this will boost entrepreneurialism and future-proof local industries and jobs with the high-level skills that we need to support UK growth and innovation. A commitment to a strong creative education from primary through to graduate level has to be central to any region's development ambitions for several reasons. Firstly, as I've noted already, creative skills are needed and demanded by employers more and more across all sectors. Secondly, because as we are served increasingly by technology, it's creatives who will provide the necessary human interfaces, helping us to work out not only what these new devices and experiences will be, but how they navigate our cityscapes and contribute to broader civic outcomes like better public health and well-being, public transport and net zero. Graduates in the creative industries aren't just working in their painting and dance studios, they're studying robotics, inclusive design, and new fabric technologies. They are enablers of many other industries. In fact, industries that we don't even know the existence of yet. Our mission at Creative UK is to unlock the potential of creativity to shape the UK's social and economic future. And we truly do believe that by harnessing the power of the creative sector, we can build a better, fairer, more prosperous world. And we know that in order to realise this vision, the creative industries need to work in partnership, not only across the creative sector, but with other industries and with government and local and national players in every corner of the UK and beyond. Partnerships like those assembled today that are absolutely vital to ensuring environments in which creativity can flourish. If we are going to level up, then empowering local partnerships to make that happen is essential. Backing local people to understand the decisions that they need to take for their own success, to invest in their own futures, and to be true to their own strengths and their own identities. Several years ago, I worked with Nesta to look at the geography of creativity across the UK, and we found 47 different creative clusters. These were and they still are real hotspots of creative activity whose success was of crucial importance to their local economies. And they weren't just found in huge metropolitan centres. But big or small, there are certainly shared characteristics between them all. They establish strong links between business and enterprise, education and local government, empowering local leaders to shape impactful initiatives aligned with regional strengths. They draw on local knowledge and expertise, engaging with and connecting existing creative communities. And they ensure that creative talent is not only retained locally, but that opportunities for it to flourish are available for future generations as well. Ultimately, they all recognise the intrinsic link between vibrant creativity and a thriving local economy. And that's why it's so encouraging to see the support here today for Southampton's bid to be the 2025 City of Culture, because, as I've already outlined, the creative industries are a growth area of limitless possibilities. Creative innovators really do have the capacity to tackle society's greatest problems and influence significant change. The sector makes money and creates jobs. It's high-paying, future-proof jobs at that, not low-paid, manual, menial, nothing wrong with manual work, but there's not low-paid. They're not here today, gone tomorrow jobs. They're jobs for the future. But more than that, going back to what I said right at the beginning, creativity makes people feel better. It binds communities together and it gives them a sense of place. As pandemic restrictions have lifted, it's local culture that has drawn people back together and into their towns and city centres. Last night, I was really privileged to be invited to a reception that was held at number 11 Downing Street to celebrate International Women's Day. You might know the person who lives there because he's a Southampton boy, I'm told, Mr. Sunak, or Rishi, the Chancellor. Actually, I didn't think he was that dishy in real life. But anyway, let's edit that bit out, Caroline. Very nice man. Anyway, my ears pricked up last summer when Rishi said, there are only a few things that we are world class at. For us in the UK, the creative industries, arts, culture, it's something we are genuinely world class at. Well, hurrah to that. Absolutely agree, Rishi. We've been through an extremely disruptive few years, and we are about to witness even more disruption. But throughout history, periods of intense challenge, upheaval, and unrest have been followed by great cultural and technological advancements. That's not to say there won't be difficulties, there always are, but there are also opportunities and blankets. To quote Rishi again, we're experts at this. Embrace that, encourage it, and believe that the decisions that you make today can unlock a better creative future for everyone tomorrow. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Ajay. I'm going to try and do this speech without my glasses because I'm trying to get back to some sort of normal. And before COVID, I didn't wear glasses, so let's give it a go and see how we get on. First of all, thank you so much to Anne-Marie and Caroline for really inspiring speeches. And I think, I hope that all of our audiences, both online and in the room, are now in no doubt about the importance of the creative industries. Also, Caroline, I'd like to thank you for putting it into the global context. I think it's really important that we remember the backdrop to today's events and realise that what we are doing is so important in terms of people's soul, their expression and their definition of who we are. So that was a really brilliant reminder, and I think it was interesting for me because when both Anne-Marie and Caroline were speaking, there were so many things in our bid that your speeches resonated with. Now obviously our bid is still secret, it's a competition, but many of the things that you touched on came up very strongly in our consultation. And that's the backdrop really of our discussions today. And before I start properly, I'd also like to thank the teams in Southampton 2025 and the Solent LEP for helping put this event together. They've worked really, really hard, and we're still at that point where you never quite know if you can pull an event off. I know we're allowed to in theory, but things happen unexpectedly. And yet we've managed to, I think, with just one change to our speakers this afternoon, get together and discuss this really important topic, something which is at the backdrop of our UK City of Culture bid. I think probably most of you in this room know me, but maybe people online don't. And I am bid director who's leading our bid to be UK City of Culture in 2025. In terms of my own background, I've spent 30 years in roles across the creative industries, running an events and music organisation for much of that time. And over the years, I've been involved in many of our national moments, including the Manchester Commonwealth Games, London 2012 Olympics, and Hull and Coventry's UK City of Culture programmes. As well as working in the UK, I've got extensive experience of working internationally across Europe, West and Southern Africa, the Caribbean and North America. And that has been really, really helpful in terms of our ambition, because our ambition is obviously reflecting our local and our regional, but has to make an impact nationally and internationally. And we have many, many international connections here that we've built on in our bid. I'm also passionate about artists and creative people and organisations achieving their full potential. And I have, over the time I was at Sirius, helped and devised and developed talent development programmes that have nurtured Grammy Award-winning and Mercury Music Prize nominees. And again, that talent pipeline has come through very strongly this morning and is a very important part of our bid. So I was delighted when our city partner, the LEP, Solent LEP, suggested that we might collaborate on this event. We'd been talking for a while, and they've been extremely supportive. Anne-Marie, thank you personally for all the support that you've given us. But it's obvious that both the Solent LEP and Southampton 2025 have a really clear commitment to actively supporting and championing the Solent region's creative industries. And there is enormous potential for the region's creative sector to grow and become an even greater driver of the economy across the Solent region and beyond. An example of this is that 4 priority places in the Arts Council's Levelling Up agenda are based in the region and are priorities for additional investment. And this goes alongside London cultural organisations being encouraged to extend their national reach and consider relocation. And as part of the Southampton 2025 bid, we have reached out to the creative sector and said that we would like to be a good partner, and if you would like to have those conversations with us about how can we can be a part of your national plans, then we are very open to do that. We've already had a good response to that, and it's part of our drive really, as part of the bid, to be seen as a really good, strong partner that delivers. So our bid to become UK City of Culture 2025 has been a real driving force for collaboration, not only across the city, but also across the wider region. We have partnerships with 10 of our neighbouring councils, including Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, Eastleigh, Fareham, Gosport, Portsmouth, Hampshire, New Forest, Test Valley, Isle of Wight and Winchester. And that's really, really important because as part of our bid, we want to create a regional tourism offer and to spotlight some of our region's cultural jewels and strategic priorities. The process of bidding has galvanised our city and our region, and it is a really powerful mechanism to address our need for change and to realise our enormous potential. Supporting the growth of the creative industries and bringing the region together, developing our regional tourism offer and driving greater investment, development and opportunities across the creative industries, These would all be important outcomes of winning the City of Culture title. As part of our bid, one of the key objectives is to develop greater opportunities through building capacity, ensuring support is available for creative businesses to thrive, and by working in collaboration with organisations such as the Solent LEP, and lastly, attracting and retaining the talent that has come through our higher and further education institutions. And it's great to be at Solent here today, at Solent University, and it's been fantastic as part of the bid to work with both Southampton University and Solent, who have been very, very involved in helping us understand the data, help us understand our extensive consultation programme, and to really analyse how we can maximise our potential. On Wednesday, the 2nd of February, as Ajay mentioned, the Southampton Trust, which is the delivery vehicle for our bid, delivered our final written bid to the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. It was a monumental task. It reminded me, the closest thing I've been is to when I was involved with the Olympic bid for London. And I wasn't nearly at the centre as I was of this bid. And it was so important because we'd done so much work. And there was so much to tell that we wanted to make sure we got across to the judges. And it also, we hope, outlined why Southampton deserves to win, how winning would benefit not just us, but also the wider region, as well as outlining our longer-term legacy. It demonstrated how Southampton would maximise the opportunity through collaboration across the city, the region, and how through our programme of events and activities we would address our needs as identified through our extensive consultation, all done through the pandemic. We were really, really impressed by how the city came together to make sure that we were telling the right stories, to make sure that our bid was informed by what the people of Southampton and the wider region really want. And that theory of change that was developed from that consultation is really forming the backbone of our bid. So our bid is currently being evaluated by an expert panel of judges, and we will find out whether we've made it through to the next stage on the 21st of March, and that's when the list goes from 8 to 4. If we're shortlisted, then we'll be preparing to host the expert panel in Southampton. And the visit gives the judges the opportunity to explore the city, meet our communities, and really get a sense of why we deserve to be UK City of Culture in 2025, and how this significant prize will address our economic and social needs. Following on from the visit, the team will then make a formal presentation to the expert panel, outlining our commitment, our capacity to deliver, and showing that by trusting a city such as Southampton to become UK City of Culture 2025, we can deliver a year to remember and a long-term legacy. It will not only put Southampton on the map, but also the wider region. And we know that if we're successful, our City of Culture will have a local, regional, national and international impact. We then wait, if we've got any nails left, we will then wait to hear whether we've been successful in being crowned the winners at the end of May. So a plea for all of those here today: if you aren't following our social media channels, then please do so. Remember, the judges are watching us. You can find us across Facebook, Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn at Southampton 2025, and don't forget to use the hashtag #MakeItSo and hashtag SO25 when tagging us. I've got a very exciting announcement now because we're launching today our new 2025 film. This has been put together with Gemma Nichols leading it, and I have to just say a thank you to Gemma personally because you've been leading the film, you've been juggling all the events that we've got coming up, and you always start the morning with a smile on your face. So I'd just like to say a personal thank you to Gemma. But now it's time to see our new film, and I hope that you feel it reflects the Southampton that we all know and love.
Southampton, city made fragment by river and wall of yesterday's brick, mishmash side by side, eager to thrive, not sit. A nation's front door, anchor of merchant, stranger to friend.
High tide, carry roots, Solent scent.
Western horizon, seen from masts. Wetland bird, vast sky.
Kick flips on concrete, catching air, flying high.
Heels strut on stage, all walks, march, pride.
Bells of St. Mary's crooning chime over chit-chat in corner shops and shadows of high-rise. Iron Bird spits fire from jazz-streaked walks, streets talk of saints with red, white stripes marching. Pavements sing, spin, ball, bowling. Calls in parks in Southampton. Flower and tree-lined common, park runs.
Shark strike, open playing field, city for everyone.
Plectrum verse of Derby Road, bow of races.
Sounds of South Asian summers, throughout times and spaces.
Scribbles and sights and verses made vocal.
Global scent savoured of dishes made local.
Art beneath arches, in shops now galleries filled of creativity. Dances on stage, dances on street, sway of arm, pivot of feet.
Records revolving, percussion patterns, from DJ holding crowd.
Joiners armed, broadcasting.
Worlds come together, we're talking, so listen. Let culture scale walls, let it be for all. Let Southampton grow, let's make it so.
It's so great because I know so many of you in the room, you've all been so involved in the bid, and I know what's coming up in the film, and I know who to look at and who it will resonate with. And I just saw the smiles move around the room as there was recognition of the things that they really love about Southampton. So we're very proud of that. I really feel it reflects the consultation and the flavour of this wonderful city. I was really proud. I was speaking at an International Women's Day event last night, and I was introduced as somebody who is now an honorary Setonian, and I can't think of anything better after 2 years of living and breathing this city and these wonderful people. It's a real honour to be your bid director. Keep everything crossed and enjoy the rest of the day.